permission to speak. Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here, Fred shouts.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, Fred!
Welcome to episode 434 of Concede, a Harth Stone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, February 15th, 2024 in the evening. Coming to you from Numbergon, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From Northrend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. As always, thank you for your reviews. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. So, Life and Ladder, I think we will attempt to go kind of quickly, because, oh my goodness, so much dropped this week. So much dropped, actually, that we had to decide that we're going to cover like half of it next week, because they're doing kind of the slow reveals leading up to rapid fire, like every class revealed. So next week, I think, is going to be a little slower, and we're going to take that opportunity to go over the core set. We know what's going to be in core, what's going to be improved, what's going out, what's coming back, yada yada. There's some pretty wacky stuff this time around because of Hearthstone's 10-year anniversary. So I'm sure we'll get into plenty of that later. But in terms of my Life and Ladder, for whatever reason, the only thing I've been enjoying is Miracle Rogue.
Okay.
Is this like Miracle Rogue with Draka, the whole 9 yards?
Oh yeah, Draka's very important. There are some matchups we cannot win if we don't get Draka, primarily the control matchups. But, you know, I've gotten 18 power weapon, so like it's that kind of, you know, it's do silly things with Greedy Partner and Shadow Step. That's the vibe. And basically the only thing new is they released these gift cards, which we'll talk about later, and the Rogue one is not like incredible, but it's pretty decent and flexible, because I mean really mostly it's like a 1-mana spell that one of the options you can get is Backstab, which is a free spell. So that's like 2 ticks towards whatever miracle things you're doing right there. And the Deadly Poison option has been relevant a not insignificant amount of the time. So been enjoying that. It is like a sevens version. I'm gonna try a Miracle Rogue version that is not that Swift Scale Trickster into sevens, because
I just ate dinner at all. Like, come on, like don't do this to me.
As incredible as those games are, where you do Trickster into sevens, I'm wondering if like just getting the cards earlier with quick pick and that kind of stuff might be more consistent. Maybe not. But
I feel like I ran into one Miracle Rogue. I ran into lots of more Excavate Rogues that also would still play like 6 cards on turn 1, and I'm like, why do you always have both Backstab, both Bone Spikes on turn 1 when I had a really good opening? But I did face basically the deck that you're playing, except I think they also had quick picks, and they did get a 17 attack Draco weapon on 5 after doing a 777s situation. Yep. And I died quickly. And I believe someone posted a pic to Twitter of like an 18 attack weapon and 2 ghosts on 4.
That seems like an average rogue game.
Well, not so much average. But I definitely had one against a Blood DK, which, you know, obviously they deserve it. And much as I love Blood DK.
Have you been hanging out with Slarms again? Like,
look, I like Blood DK. Now is not the time. So, you know, they obviously weren't pressuring me at all, and I was able to get out double location and have the large Draka turn where I had like a 19-19, an 18-18, and an 18 attack weapon. And I believe I played the quick draw card that turn that made their stuff cost 1 more, so they couldn't play Reno even if they had it.
Nice.
Something like that. That, or maybe it was just a situation where, like, no, it might not have even been that bad. It might have just been a situation of, like, either you can clear the minions or you can heal, but you can't do both, and you're at 6. So, yeah. It's a fun deck. But obviously life stuff is just, taking care of the kiddo and playing Baldur's Gate, and that's it.
Have you had to buy an external battery for your Steam Deck yet?
That's a thing?
Oh yeah, of course.
I mean, it's not really necessary because I don't leave my living room, but
right. Yeah, we'll talk before the next time we get on a plane.
If I'm on a plane, I'll just play visual novels instead. It'll last much longer. But yeah. So, Miguel, so you've got some stuff written down here. What are you been up to?
So last week I had this incredible record with Overkill Priest. I'm still positive, but and I'm still, I think, at like 60 or almost 60%. But that means I've been going about even since then. And some of it is just regression to the mean. Some of it is my own getting tilted and doing misplays and also not playing Hearth correctly, I'm pretty sure, where I always wait way too long to play him because this was also my trouble with Finley. Whenever I play a deck with Finley in it, I'm like, but I like the things in my hand. I've been planning around the things in my hand, and I have a sunk cost fallacy or like a functional fixedness about the things that I'm supposed to do with my hand. So I do have that problem. I've had a few games where like I got them down, a control warrior down to 1, and then I got them down to 1. I played Hearth. It gave me the Demon Hunter hand that gives you an extra +2 attack, but I'd already attacked with a Remornia that I had gotten off of my Amanthul. This was like, every once in a while, this deck can go really late, but I like attacked too early, or one game I got the Mage minion off of the Heartthrob. I got the Mage minion that Death Rattle gives you 2 Arcane Bolts, and I got an Egwin also off the Heartthrob. But I used the Arcane Bolt on a minion like an idiot.
You've been hanging out with me too much.
Yeah. And then I was 5 damage short of lethal and had an extra mana in a couple turns.
Oh no.
I'm like, I kind of knew when I did it that I shouldn't. Still got some great Hedonus lethals, some great early boards. Those times when the Paladin or the Rainbow DK just concedes to you the second that they see that they can't deal with your injured hauler. That card is just brutal against board-based decks if you get it out. And it is, if you are playing this deck, by the way, even though it's an aggressive deck, it is one where I would say don't just tempo out the hauler if you don't have a way to protect it. Don't just tempo out a clergy, especially if you don't have the other clergy. Like if you are on the coin, don't play anything turn 1, then clergy coin synchronize. That's a better play because you must have the draw. Like every time they have Bone Spike, and you really can't afford to waste your clergy unless maybe you have like a Raised Dead in your hand, and you can't afford to waste your Injured Hauler in the matchups where Injured Hauler is important. If it's versus a Control Warrior, then like who cares? They don't care about your Injured Hauler at all. I think the only Control Warrior I beat this morning, I had a rough morning. It's my day when I go in a little bit later to work, but I still get up at the same time, so I actually have a chance to play a little Hearthstone in the morning. I had those games where I like couldn't quite get there against the Control Warriors, and the one that I did, they were playing like every dredge card from Sunken City that never saw any play that I don't remember the names of. I don't understand what they were doing. I was like, if you had played removal instead of the 2/3 that dredges and the 3/6 that dredges, then you would have won. I don't know. Presumably there was a plan in there. They didn't even play From the Depths, so I don't know.
No, they have every other dredge card. They didn't have room for From the Depths, I guess. Like,
my best guess is they're just like, oh, I want dredge because then I see the bottom of my deck, so I can try and hit, Odin or Bran.
Probably. Yeah, they were 40 card.
But the best dredge is the first dredge, and then unless you're shuffling, the second one, like, it's diminishing returns. So
Yeah.
First you dredge, and then you're dedge.
So if someone is experimenting, I definitely support that, but maybe just have tons of removal and then get your Odin out if you're playing Control Warrior. But I'm still having fun, and I do think I'm going to switch into other decks. I've had a really busy week, and I'm out of town this weekend, and there was lots of reveals to keep up with, as we'll be talking about very shortly. I really had fun just kind of playing the social media game, talking to everybody on the Discord server and checking out what people are posting about it. So that's kind of been what I've been doing as much as anything. And then just dealing with work and stuff like that. Oh, and I have my wedding dress picked out. So
Oh, good. That's exciting.
Things continue there. That is probably the most fun thing for the wedding planning. So it's downhill from here, but
Well, you get to try all the food at some point, so that's something to look forward to.
yeah.
Because then you go into the caterer, and then you get to taste all the dishes, and that's fun.
I did not have any of these experiences at all.
Well, the venue that we're having it is near my in-laws or soon to be in-laws, and we're going to visit them. So we'll also be going to the venue, and I want to nail down a bunch of things. But the menu may be interesting because in the wedding party, we have a lot of different dietary restrictions.
Oh.
So there's 3 people in particular.
You see, what you need to do is you just need to do like the bar mitzvah, like kids buffet, where you just have like hot dogs and chicken fingers and, and then just have like an ice cream bar and just call it a day, right? Then you don't have to figure any of it out.
Plain white pasta with Parmesan.
Hey, I'm you can't go wrong,
Between 3 different people, I'm like, if they all are happy, if I have like one thing each of these people can eat, then we will be good for everyone. So, but it's, it's very important to make sure that people are included. So I want to spend the time to do it, but it will be a little bit interesting. Luckily, this is California and people understand this. Sometimes I'm sure it gets frustrating for restaurants in California, but it is nicer for the people who do need the dietary restrictions. So.
And you, Wicked? How's your week been?
I haven't played a lot in the last day and a half because Deep Rock Galactic Survivor came out, which is the Deep Rock Galactic Vampire Survivors which is so good that I ran down both my Switch and my external battery to power my Switch yesterday. Not my Switch, my Steam Deck rather. Both the Steam Deck and the external battery that power to keep the Steam Deck running while we were watching Abbott Elementary in the floor last night. So yeah, that's good. If you like Vampire Survivors, go get it. It's like $9 right now, and you will enjoy it. I'm not going to spend. If we didn't have everything else to talk about, I might talk about a little more, but that's just there. But before that, I tried to learn the 30 card Control Warrior. It did not go well at all. I won like one game, like the first game. I guess it was just beginner's luck, and then I just I wanted to play it to try to understand how it wins, and I still am no closer to understanding either. I mean, I know how it loses is that you don't have enough removal. You don't actually have nearly as much removal as it looks like in the 30 card list, because you really just have like Blade Storm, Aftershocks, Shield Slam, and like Trial by Fire. And like if your opponent puts up a big board that doesn't die to one of those things, then you're just done. And like it's kind of expecting there to be like a top 200 level compression of the meta, and that is not what I'm seeing like at all. And I just seeing like a whole bunch of weird greedy stuff. I'm like, you know what, screw it, we're going back to Sludge Warlock and we're just going to play that. And that went better. I bounced around a couple different lists. I ended up going back to Mad Thanos's list. He took out Finley and Dark Hondrathier and put in 2 Trog Gem Tossers because those are a lot of damage. And it turns out you still do need to kill your opponent with Sludge Warlock, even when you're playing the slow version. But I was playing a couple games at lunch today, and I queued into a hybrid Rainbow Plague DK. Like not, and when I say hybrid, I mean full hybrid. right? Like not just like normally when you have like the hybrids, they're running like Helya and maybe like Down with the Ship. They had everything. They had the full plague package.
You can't. What?
I don't know what they were doing.
So the only ones you can run in Rainbow are Helya and the 2 Down with the Ships.
Then they must have been running Plague with the rest of the Rainbow stuff that's not actually Rainbow and not running CNE, I guess. Because like they were running, was it Malignant Horrors? They were running the poison, the give things poison undead. They were running mining casualties. They were running and they were running Corpse Bride and Stitch Giant. But they were also running the full plague package.
Wait, like you saw the 3/2 Death Rattle and you saw the weapon.
And I saw the weapon. Yep.
And the weapon didn't come off the...
The weapon was on turn 1. The weapon was on turn 1.
Weird.
I don't know either. But I was very grateful that I was playing the slower version because I fell behind and they kept shuffling my deck, whatever. They got to a point on like turn 7 where they cleared my board and they had like 1 Malignant Horror down. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to chill for a turn because I got Sargeras in hand for 9. So I'll just take it easy, let them develop, and then I'll play Sargeras. And boy, did they, because the Malignant Horror copied again, and they played another Stitch Giant and another like 10/10 Corpse Bride. And I'm like, okay, bye. And their response was to clear my board and use Reska. That they played Reska. And then I think right after they played Reska, they realized exactly what they were doing. That they were going to get basically up to 6/12 paperweight. And I happened to be playing I have them on random, but it was the Trader Rafam, whose oops is no refunds, which was just perfect for that situation. So it was, so they took it and then it just sat there and they didn't even press a button on it for like 2 turns. And then they realized, oh, I guess I have to actually try to use these things to get it to attack eventually. But then I just had the imps from the portal and they couldn't get rid of them. And I was able to eventually get there with the rest of my burn. But that's not a matchup. Well, I mean, that's not a matchup I'm used to winning, though I'm usually playing against one or the other of those decks and not both at the same time.
I mean, the other thing that makes sense to me is like they basically took out the excavates and
they did, yeah,
put in the corpse stuff. But it's weird because like you don't have the payoff, you don't have CNE. Right. I guess there's an argument for the crop rotation poison stuff, but I mean, more power.
It was on my phone. Otherwise, I would send you the replay and you could try to figure it out. But I was very confused because I'm like, oh, they're playing Plague Decay. Oh, wait. Like, that's all the Rainbow stuff. And then I thought, okay, well, maybe it's just the version that's Helya, but that's like every Plague card came out. Like, okay, you do you. And it's just been like, that's been all week for me. It's been like, I'm like at like 1500 Legend now because like, it's just people are like major senioritis at this point. And it's just kind of like, I can't predict what the hell's going to happen. Like I read in the Vicious Syndicate report that Reno Priest might be good because it basically beats everything that beats that beats Sledge Warlock. But also I know I'm not going to see any of those decks and I'm just going to see like Plague Blood Death Knight and like Elemental Shaman. and just everything but what I'm trying to target. So I'll probably end up getting baited into it anyway because it's Priest and I'm weak, but what are you going to do? But we have a good reason to have senioritis because we just found out what's happening at rotation. So we have a lot to talk about. So we should start doing that right away.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
Okay, buckle up because this is a lot. And I said off stream before we started recording, we are going to try to get through this in less time than an off-curve card review, and I make no promises. So But I will try to talk quickly. There are going to be things that we're going to miss that are, other than the core set, which we are definitely going to talk about next week. There are going to be some things that we would normally cover that we're not going to. We will have links to all of the blog posts and all of the supplementary material for you to go peruse through, because there may be some things that are relevant to you that are just, there's no way to cover everything. But anyway, welcome to the year of the Pegasus. We got the announcement on Monday up, and it is a 10th anniversary celebration year. Apparently, according to Cora on Twitter, Pegasus was the original code name for Hearthstone. So that's the reason that they chose the name. It got very close to Joss's Year of the Unicorn that she wanted for the whole time of the Angry Chicken, but instead of a horse with a horn, we have a horse with wings. So it's close.
If you squint and you look at the abstract image,
it does a little bit.
The ear poking up at the top does look like a horn. So I think it's as close as we're gonna get.
Yeah, we'll call it technically correct, which is the best kind of correct. So we got a message from the game director talking about celebrating 10 years of Hearthstone and kind of setting up everything that we're going to get. And there is a lot. Some of it is live right now. Some of it will be happening over the coming weeks, and some of it will be when the new expansion comes out on March 19th. So we have 3 amazing expansions continuing throughout the year that are both building on Hearthstone's past and taking us to new frontiers. They gave us a preview image. They started out with a preview of the core set. Again, we will talk in excruciating detail next week about both the core set and what's going to be rotating out of standard to kind of give the foundation for everything that we're about to see in the card reveals. But the highlights of the core set are that we are getting a number of iconic cards back. Leroy is coming back. The Wrath of Air Totem, the spell damage totem, is coming back in and replacing the Strength Totem for the Shaman Hero Power, along with Spirit Claws. We're getting 2 mana Fiery War Axe back. Justicar Trueheart is both back and buffed. She used to be a 6 mana 6/3, and now she is a 5 mana 6/4. If for those of you who don't remember, Justicar Trueheart is from the Grand Tournament, which is from before we had Standard. And it is 5 mana 6/4 now with Battlecry. Replace your starting hero power with a better one. So if you have armor up, then you get tank up, which is 4 armor instead of 2 armor, for example. And there are the other ones. We had Gen and Baku. These would also be the Gen hero powers. That's long enough that you may not remember that if you just started playing recently. But all of the hero powers are upgraded. Important to note, it is only does anything if you still have your starting hero. So if you have played Reno, it doesn't change your hero power again. It's just a 5 mana 6/4. It doesn't do anything to the Reno hero power. It doesn't do anything to the special hero powers. It just replaces the starting one if you have.
Yeah, we don't need an upgraded Reno hero power.
No, we super do not. We also, the other highlights, Rogue Secrets are gone. Druid Ramp is gone. All of both Wild Growth and Nourish, as well as Lunar Eclipse and Solar Eclipse, and Kiri. Not that anyone played Kiri because they just put the spells in their deck, but those are all going out. All of the Rogue Secrets, both the ones that are rotating and the ones that were added to core, are going out. There's no secrets for Rogue.
One small asterisk on Druid, which we'll get to, is that there is still a way for them to get Wild Growth.
Yes, we will talk about that.
Which we will get to. As well as there's the new card from this past mini set that...
Yes.
From the past expansion where they can get 3 ramp, 3 mana crystals, or summon the...
Yeah. They're not losing all of their ramp, but they're losing Nourish in general is a big thing because of all the choose one synergies that abuse it. We will talk about that all next week because we have so much to get to that we have to push that out to next week as much as we want to talk about it. But you can go through, and also I will point out, I will give a shameless plug on offcurve.com. I put together a rotation tracker that organizes everything for the core set in spreadsheet form. There is one tab that tells you everything that is changing in core, and then there's a second tab that tells you everything that is rotating out of standard at the end of the year. So if you want to go peruse that, go look at that. I'm sure that we will be referencing that a lot when we talk about that next week, but there is too much to talk about and we don't have time. So, as soon as patch 28.6, which is the patch that went live on Tuesday, came out, we got new gift legendaries. We got Harth Stonebrew and then a gift for each class. So, Harth Stonebrew is a 6 mana 6/5. I don't even pay attention to the stats on it.
5/5.
5/5. Okay. And he replaces your hand with an iconic hand from the past. So the hands are, there's one for each class, but they are not tied to the class that you are when you play them. You just get one of those random hands regardless of what class you're playing. So you can get Day 1 Demon Hunter. You can get Galakron Priest. I guess that's the best that they could do. You can get why am I blanking on the Warlock one? The name of the Warlock one.
I put a link to all of the hands in the show notes. Yeah, so you can get Q-Block.
Q-Block. That's what. Why am I blanking on that? Good Lord, I probably repressed the memory.
You've got Doomguard. You've got Carnivorous Cube, obviously. Faceless Manipulator. Do note for the Demon Hunter one, it does have a fixed order in your hand, and it's a slightly awkwardish order.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's a terrible order. It's the only. So I have not played Hearth very many times. I think I've played it twice because I tried it out in the Miracle Rogue, and I was always just like, well, but it's still better for me to just like draw my cards and play out my own stuff, and then Hearth was a last resort, which meant I never ended up playing it. But they put Skull of Gul'dan in the middle of the hand.
Yeah.
The middle. Why? It should be on the far left.
It should be on the side. Yeah. And they have I-Beam stuck fairly far into the middle as well.
Uh-huh.
So that's really hard to get out. And some of these hands I think are quite strong or can give you like a lot of staying power. You're not going to win instantly with anything here.
Yeah. They take some setup for sure.
I do like the Shutterwalk hand. So there is that, it takes some setup. You're not going to win on the next turn, but it gives you, this is something where you don't want to play it when you've basically already lost, and you don't want to play it when you need to win right this second. So that can make it a little hard to time, but it does give you a lot more staying power. If you're like in top deck mode, then certainly it's going to be better than sitting there top decking. I think that might be the best use for him. I got closest, I think, with the Shaman hand. And there's also a mill rogue with Cold Light Oracle. Each player draws 2 cards and things to bounce them, and Brand Bronzebeard to double it, and
vanish.
And gang up, which shuffles 3 copies into your deck.
How is that the rogue hand? I just
How is Galakron Priest the priest hand?
I mean, fair. I feel like they did them both a little dirty, but like,
I think it's partly that they can't have double. It's unique. It's 8 unique
they're 8
cards.
Unique cards. Yeah.
So you can't have like 2 preps. And a lot of rogue hands, I think, are dependent on duplicates to really have.
Maybe
you can't do like Inner Fire, Divine Spirit, right? Like that would probably be like the iconic priest hand, or Raza Priest. But like really, it would be Raza Priest, but you can't guarantee that you're going to be playing that in a deck that doesn't have duplicates, right?
Yeah, I guess. I feel like the rogue one should be something with Edwin, right? It's just weird.
It feels like there should be something that makes Edwin work. We've got Libram Paladin. We've got
Patron Warrior.
I haven't gotten that one yet. That one seems
like the best.
Like that would be the best, and that would be fun.
Like absolute high roll, right? You play this as long as you're not pressured. You play Thaurissan, and then they die next turn. Like,
most of them don't have they die next turn. I think the Unholy Death Knight is probably pretty strong. It's just like we got Grave Strength, we got Nerubian Swarmguard, we got Hawkstrider Rancher into Nerubian Swarmguard.
It's also just like we could just play that now, right? Like it's less exciting.
It's a bit less exciting. Yeah, there's like 3 Death Knight ones, and they're all things that we could play now. Although soon we won't be able to play them necessarily.
The Shutterwalk Shaman one seems probably next best after the Warrior one, right?
Yeah, I did pretty well with that, and you do have things to stabilize, like Volcano, deal 15 damage randomly split among all minions, and you can Glacial Shard things while you're setting up. And Glacial Shard specifically says freeze an enemy, so when it's replayed by Shutterwalk, it will not freeze your stuff. That's very helpful. I had never noticed that before.
The other very important thing about Harth is that he says in his battle cry once per game, and that is almost certainly because of Shutterwalk.
Uh-huh. at least in part. Shutterwalk and Shadow Step, right?
Well, I mean, Shadow Step does ruin everything, so that's fair, but yes.
But like,
I don't think that they want a deck where your whole point is you're going to bounce Harth to keep getting Harth hands until you win somehow. Although I'm sure there are people who would enjoy this. I do think this is a really fun card to have.
Sure.
I haven't had as much luck with it as I would like, although I don't think you'd want to see this in every deck forever.
Yeah, it's definitely super fun. It's also worth noting that there are, to Druid and Demon Hunter in particular, they are supposed to have unnerfed versions of some of the cards. Certain, in particular, Swipe and Wild Growth are supposed to be unnerfed in the Druid one, and I'm presuming Skull of the Minari, not Skull of the Minari, Skull of Gul'dan in the Demon Hunter one is probably supposed to be 5 mana if it's supposed to be day 1 Demon Hunter.
And Altruist and Twin Slice. And Priestess of Fear. All of these cards have been
they're all terrible. That was one of the two. That was the one of the two I got, and I'm like, wow, these suck.
Yeah, maybe the way the hand is arranged is not as terrible if the cards cost what they originally cost.
It's still bad.
You can't play it all together.
Like it's still bad because it's on the, you have from left to right: Twin Slice, Altruist, Imprisoned Antean, I-Beam, Skull of Gul'dan, Priestess of Fury, Metamorphosis, Warglaives of Azeroth. First off, I-Beam, only card in that hand that has not been nerfed. But it should be like Skull of Gul'dan on the far left, maybe I-Beam on the far right or something, or right after Skull of Gul'dan, I don't know. And then, you want 3 mana Altruist, maybe 0 mana Twin Slices.
Yeah, that would be a lot better.
5 mana Antean, Priestess of Fury with 7 health.
And it's not like you're going to be, drawing into a bunch of other day 1 Demon Hunter stuff. Like, I think it's okay in this situation. Right. Plus, you did play a 6 mana 5/5 first. So, it's okay. We can have them unnerfed, which I think, is the idea.
There are a few of these that I'm just like, I'm not sure this functions without the rest of the deck, right? Like the Druid one. Like, you can break the twig and then do, Togwaggle Azalina. But you have to have drawn your whole deck. I guess it's Druid. They can always have drawn, but you're not guaranteed to get this.
You're not always Druid. You're not always Druid.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I think you're playing Harth when you've run out of, you're playing a proactive deck. You play Harth when you've run out of stuff.
I guess. Yeah.
But the whole thing with Togwaggle Druid is that you've also drawn through your entire deck, which most decks are not doing, unless they're like 30 card Control Warrior, in which case they already have a win condition and they don't need druids. So
one thing that strikes me is that depending on the frequency of hero cards over the course of this next year, like obviously we've got Reno, but if Reno's the only one, then Hearth could be interesting just because these give you heroes.
Yeah. I don't know, but it's a fun card. And then we also got the gift cards in the same patch, and the gift cards, I have to scroll through the patch notes because that's where they were revealed. So each one of the gift cards, there's one for each class. They are all 1 mana spells that let you discover a temporary copy of one of 3 spells. So Frostbolt, Arcane Intellect, Fireball for Mage. Hunter has Quick Shot, Deadly Shot, Explosive Shot. Also has a very cute animal on the art that none of the rest of them do. Arthas's gift is Death Knight is Dark Transformation, Howling Blast, or Death Strike. Paladin is Equality, Consecration, or Blessing of Kings. Shaman is Lightning Bolt, Hex, or Bloodlust. Those all seem pretty good. Warrior is Execute, Shield Block, or Brawl. Demon Hunter is Fell Barrage, Chaos Strike, or Chaos Nova. Rogue is Backstab, Deadly Poison, or Fan of Knives. Druid is Feral Rage, Wild Growth, or Swipe. Warlock is Mortal Coil, Siphon Soul, or Twisting Nether. And Priest is Power Word Shield, Shadow Word Pain, or Mind Control. Again, note that Druid and Priest are underpowered right now because Mind Control, as you might note, costs 10 mana, which is difficult to get a temporary copy of a 10 mana card if you've already had to pay 1 mana to play the spell to get it. That is going to be 9 in the expansion release patch. So they're going to be buffing Mind Control. And Wild Growth is going to go back to 2 mana in that same patch. So right now it's 3 mana. It will be 2 mana, which means that effectively you will still be able to have 3 mana Wild Growth in Standard as long as these gifts are around. These are all part of a special event set that normally when we've had event sets in the past, those cards have been granted temporarily. These are permanent gifts for your collection, so you'll always be able to play them in Wild, but there's no guarantee about how long they're going to be available, how long they're going to be legal in Standard. What we're hearing is it's probably going to be for the next Standard year, but they may not stick around for a whole 2 years and rotate like a normal expansion one.
I think they're sort of like, yeah, we just want to be able to have an individualized lever with this. Like, yep. I imagine there's no way that they will be available next year, right? It's not like they're going to be, 2-year things as though they were a separate expansion, because they're 10-year anniversary things and this is that year. But I think they will basically try and keep them in the whole year unless they prove to be bad actors, right? Like, if they end up being too problematic in one way or another, then maybe they'll rotate them early.
And none of these seem too bad.
And this is probably a technically easier solution than trying to, like, if you shoehorn them into the new set, then they can't really be active now. If you put them into Badlands, then that's weird because they're for this year. If you put them into Core, but Core is not really going to be active until, like, this is just easier, I think, in a lot of ways.
And yeah, it basically means that Druid doesn't actually have Wild Growth rotated. The only situation where it matters sort of differently is if you get Cult Neophyted, then it'll tax you twice because 2 spells. But otherwise, basically, you have a more flexible Wild Growth. And I think they're all interesting from the perspective of if you would run any of the cards that are in there and your Highlander deck, you can kind of have a second copy. It feels very important for Paladin, where it's like you absolutely want 2 equalities in a Highlander Paladin. And so getting to run Equality and the Gift seems great for that. And similarly for a Highlander Shaman, right, having access to potentially another copy of Hex or a surprise Bloodlust to your Dead is pretty great.
Yeah, especially because Bloodlust is going out of Core also. So that's the only way you're going to be able to get access to Bloodlust.
Yeah. So all around, the gifts are a really cool idea.
Yeah, they seem really fun to me. And we know that having a sideboard through ETC or a sideboard-like card through ETC has been, not something that every deck wants to do, but something that is fun and flexible. And I don't think you would want to have you can pick what to put into this 1 mana spell. But having it with spells that are, cards that are curated, it doesn't look like any of these are going to be super, super powerful, probably. And if it is, then they can address them. But many of them do give you some flexible options. And I think it's a way, if any of these cards are cards that you might want, but you wouldn't run, that most of them have, like, flexibly, you could do this in several situations, even though, yes, you do have an extra 1 mana tax on whatever card you pick out of it. So it's not, like, always the best thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Hunters might be, like, the least flexible just because they're all kind of removal.
Yeah.
But
Quick Shot goes face.
Quick Shot does go face. Yeah. So, but wait, there's more. So we have an anniversary event that will be starting on February 27th, running until March 19th. March 19th is the day that the new set comes out, and which is also the day of rotation. You will be able to get golden copies of the gift cards, and at the end of it, a special birthday coin. So that'll be fun to do. And then on March 11th, which is Hearthstone's official 10-year anniversary, there will be a legendary quest on that day that you can complete to get a 10-year anniversary card back. That actually looks pretty sweet. It looks like the old like Fireside Gathering card back, but with some gold leaves and a number 10 at the bottom. So it looks pretty nice. So that's something you're going to want to make sure to log in for a lot of reasons on March 11th. We'll get to the rest of them later. They announced March's Twist format, which is, I believe it's called Flash Forward, but it doesn't say it in this post, but I think it does in the patch notes, where it will be a format that is changing daily. So starting on March 1st, only Legacy, which is the original classic set, but with whatever nerfs have been applied to it, will be legal. And then on March 2nd, they will add Curse of Naxxramas, which was the first adventure. On March 3rd, they'll add Goblins versus Gnomes, which was the first expansion. And then so on and so forth. And I believe there are 31 sets. So they will continue to add a new set every day until the end of the month. So if you are interested in that, if there is a particular deck that you want to play, like, say, Q-Block, make sure to set yourself a reminder on that day to log in and play that. Or you might be able to start with, a vanilla deck and then just kind of build up to it until it gets outclassed and then start over. If you want to play Raza Priest again, that's something. I wish I could play Cloning Gallery Priest, but Mind Blast still does, or Holy Smite still doesn't go face, so I can't do that, but I would love to. But you can kind of pick a deck and then just play that. Now, again, if you don't have the cards, it's gonna be you're gonna have to wait a little bit, which is kind of I don't know if there would be a way to like temporarily grant access to the cards just for this format, like the way that they did for like Magic does this sometimes, where they have some of those like brawls that give you access to all the cards in a set temporarily, so you can build with it. It would be pretty cool if they could do that, because like that's the only way that some people are going to be able to experience this if they don't have the cards. Because I don't think anybody's crafting this, especially if the deck could literally be outclassed the next day.
Yeah.
But for those of us who have been playing from the beginning or close to the beginning and have the collection, this will be a cool little hit of nostalgia. But I guess we'll just have to see. There's always going to be the accessibility discussion with Twist.
I am both looking forward to this and feeling like I'm going to have to sit down and do some homework ahead of time to like map out, make a spreadsheet. And if I do make a spreadsheet, I promise I will share it with everyone. Or someone will, I'm sure, make one of these. But what day is each set, so that I can, and then try to remember what decks I was playing or want to play a better version of than I was playing at the time. So that I can try to... And some things you're not going to be able to play the same because of later changes to the cards, and it would be, I think, a technical nightmare if they tried to like revert changes for a day.
Oh, yeah, no way.
That's just not possible.
No.
So you are not going to get to play Day 1 Demon Hunter, even on the Ashes of Outlands Day.
But you can play Risky Skipper and Rage Warrior.
Oh yeah, you have to tell me which day that is and give me a list, because I missed it and I'm sad that I missed it.
Which was the only thing that could fight Day 1 Demon Hunter.
Yeah. Actually, that reminds me that whatever day Kobolds and Catacombs is, I have to resuscitate Void Ripper Control Priest.
So, you want to talk about Sounds of the Tavern?
So they're going to be adding... Sounds of the Tavern is a 3-part musical collection that they're going to be adding to streaming services, Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube, and others when they launch. There will be the first one should be on March 11th, and there will be other releases later in the year. I have gotten word that the music, unfortunately, does not include the music for the cinematics for licensing reasons. which is a bummer
Oh.
because I thought we were getting the Sunken City cinematic music, which would have just been, I would have just played that on repeat and forget everything else.
I mean, there's got to be a 10-hour version on YouTube, right?
I mean, yeah, sure there is. But these will be, things that you can use in streams. If you are someone who streams Hearthstone, you can use that. It's mostly going to be the in-game music, but it's going to be all of it. So you can use that and, or just, put it on in the background while you're working and pretend that you're playing Hearthstone even when you're not. And it's got an adorable Sarge dancing to Hearth playing on the banjo on the cover. So anytime we can get more Sarge is a good thing.
I'm still hoping we get a Sarge card in this expansion. Somehow we need Sarge in our lives.
I'm surprised that we didn't get a Sarge in something from like the Harth Stonebrew things, but I guess we'll see. Because, we need Sarge.
They did say that we're going to be celebrating the 10-year anniversary all year. So I wouldn't put it past them to have stuff in, the following 2 expansions.
Yeah, it's possible.
That's true.
So March 11th, which again is the anniversary, is also going to be a special community day. So there will be Twitch drops available. So make sure that you've connected your Twitch account to your Battle.net account ahead of time. That is a Monday, which is the day that I normally stream anyway. So I certainly will be streaming as part of it, and we will probably have other things to announce as we get a little bit closer. But I don't have to do any special coordination because that's just the day I stream anyway. So, and I hopefully will not have COVID like the last time that that they had a community day and I missed it. So, if you play World of Warcraft, there are going to be, starting on March 11th, you'll be able to log into Hearthstone to get a Fiery Heartsteed World of Warcraft mount for free. And then from the week of March 11th to March 18th, you can seek out special Hearthstone matches in capital cities and stick around long enough. You'll face a special encounter where you can defeat iconic minions to add to your deck and earn other fun new Hearthstone-themed rewards. There was a picture going around Twitter today of a Reno Jackson hat with Hearthstone cards tucked into the brim. That guy Grumpy was saying that he wants a real-life version of, and I don't blame him. So there are other things that you can get. We saw some of these data mined a while ago. I think we talked about them then. So there will be other things to experience there. But that is just the announcement post from Monday. So we got the core set an hour later. Again, we will talk about that next week. Look forward to that. But then we got patch notes for Hearthstone 28.6. So, first off, they announced the Whizbang's Workshop expansion. We are going to be talking about that in detail in Decksplanations. So we will not talk about that yet, except that the pre-order bundles were a little bit controversial enough that we needed to retire the old economy bumper because people were telling us that it was making them drive off the road while they were listening in their cars. So I have gone to the trouble of making a new economy bumper because we need it for this particular discussion.
Time is money, friend.
Okay, so we as part of the bundle, there is an early access card, card or sleeper. Which, first of all, love the name. Card is mid, but love the name because we all remember Card or Creeper back in the day. For those of us who were playing back then, it is a 1-mana 3/5 beast that starts dormant, and after 7 minions it wakes up. So, it's fine, right? Like, nobody's getting particularly excited. If you buy either the $50, like either the small bundle or the large bundle, you will get the 2 copies of that that are available for you to put into decks in standard legal right now, which has mixed feelings across the internet. I've seen the phrase pay to win mentioned quite a bit. I don't think that really applies in this case because if you're putting this in the deck, you're probably doing a lot of things, but I don't know that winning is one of them. But it is kind of setting a precedent for people who are spending money upfront and pre-ordering early, even in this case before they've seen most of the cards, to get a theoretical advantage on ladder if the card was good enough. And it does seem like the team is cognizant of that, which is why this is a very bland card that they're giving access to early. But also then you kind of get into the discussion of, well, if the card is bad, then why do it? But and the answer is probably something along the lines of, if you've never watched Mythic Quest on Apple TV, you really ought to, because Danny Putty, I think is his name. He was from Community. He was Abed from Community, right? So he plays like the monetization lead on Mythic Quest, which is the show about an MMO development company. And he just like the whole first season, he's scheming to try to get them to build a casino within the game so that people can gamble real money, like things like that, right? So like I'm sure it's not too far off there that this is a decision that like the business team put in and kind of, said that we're going to do it. And that, I don't think that this is something that, knowing how the developers roll, it doesn't seem like something they were particularly excited again about. And they clearly tried to mitigate the effects of that and tried to avoid it being pay to win, but also like, then if it's not all that good, then it's not really that much of a bonus then. So
yeah, it's this weird situation they've got, right, where, well, if the card is not like worth making people go, oh, I want to make sure I buy the bundle well in advance so I can play with that card, then why do it?
Yeah.
Right? And in this case, you could make an argument like, well, this card was selected because it is thematically hilarious and people know the reference and like it's cool in that way, the choice of card. If it just so happens that this is not, a game changer power-wise, then it does bring real concerns about, well, say they continue with this model and next time the card actually is something that shapes the meta, then, I mean, that puts even people like myself in a kind of strange position because, full disclosure, I don't usually buy the bundles, right? I wait until I get codes for them.
Yeah.
And, we use the codes, we do giveaways with some, but then we use a couple for ourselves, right? But we don't generally get those codes until much closer to release. So I could be in this sort of odd situation where I'm hampered by not having gotten the codes yet, which is a wonderful thing that we get, but I either have to say, okay, well, I'm just going to give away the codes and I'll buy my own bundle this time because I want to play with the card early, or I have to just not play with the card early. And like you said, in this case, I genuinely don't care. I haven't even seen any of them played, right? And I'm sure plenty of people have bought the bundles already just because they were going to anyway.
Right. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter which bundle, right? You can buy the mega bundle, you can buy the regular bundle. Either way, you'll get the corridor sleepers. But it just kind of creates this sort of icky feeling where it's like, by the principle of the thing, we don't think it should work this way, just because what if the situation arises where it does matter? And I'm sure the business team kind of wants it to matter, right?
Right.
They want people to feel that bind, to feel that, oh gosh, well, I am losing something by not being able to play with this card early, so I am going to shell out for a bundle early, right? And it kind of, it's got a gross feeling. I don't know.
The fact that it also, I'm sure it was intentional that the early access loses value the longer you wait to buy the bundle. They want people to buy the bundle early, but I know there are many people who either try to see if they can get a bundle in a giveaway first, and then if they can't, then they'll buy it right next to the expansion. Or there's people who want to see what the cards are going to be in the expansion before they buy the bundle. And that won't be for a while that we've seen all of the cards. For people who, we kind of by default get a bundle, whether through the creator program or just before that, just buying them on our own for every expansion. But we also make a podcast about Hearthstone. So not everyone does just get every expansion. And I'm sure the idea was to have that sort of FOMO and then you get it before you've waited for all the reveals. But that feels kind of icky. In some sense, it is already true that if you shell out for bundles, you're more likely to be able to play with everything right away. Whereas if you don't, you're more likely to have to wait to play with certain things. But that's not explicit, and you can get any particular card that you want if you have enough dust for a card. You can pick which deck do I want to craft first when an expansion drops, versus if this was, it's a little bit, if it was an impactful card, it would be a little bit like picking wrong in Alterac, which I did because I played in the Alliance when I played World of Warcraft, so I had to, stick to my guns on that. Even though I kind of knew that it was going to be the wrong choice, right? I actually did hit Legend with Big Priest at that point, but that's not the topic of this conversation. And it was frustrating. It was not the end of the world, but it was frustrating that there were meta decks that I couldn't play even if I wanted to. In this case, it might almost feel worse that you could play it if you want to, but only if you spend money that maybe you don't normally spend on the game. So while technically it's just adding an extra thing, I don't think that, I think that the designers purposely did their best to make this not pay to win. And do be mindful if you are posting about this. They are reading, Hat was saying that he's looking at all the feedback. He is passing along all that feedback. It was not his decision to do this. It's not the designers who are on Twitter's decision to do this. So please keep that in mind when you're giving your feedback about this.
Yeah, this is clearly something that was decided by the business team, and they'll take the feedback from this. I would not expect this to move the needle on pre-orders significantly one way or the other. I think the people who are going to buy pre-orders on day one are probably just going to buy pre-orders on day one. And I think everyone else, I wouldn't expect that this is going to change behavior very much, which might just mean that they don't do it again because they got negative feedback. The negative feedback has been very clearly heard. I can assure you that feedback has been very clearly and swiftly heard. And if it doesn't move the needle on pre-orders, I wouldn't expect that they're going to do it again. But, they're going to try different things. Again, this is a new corporate daddy that Blizzard has, and they're going to try different things that, maybe hadn't been tried before and see how they stick, right? We've had them kind of do some experimentation with the bundles. We had them do catch-up packs last time. They're not doing that every time, but that's something that they did for Badlands that was pretty successful. They've gone and, changed the number of packs that have been in there from time to time. They've thrown in extra goodies, and, they threw in Mercenaries packs back when they thought that those had any value. And so they're always kind of trying to see what to do with the bundles, but this is clearly something that people are uncomfortable with, and they've heard that feedback.
Yeah. And one small important note, I've seen a lot of people asking for them to take this out of the bundles now. They legally cannot do that because people will have already bought the bundles with that expectation. So, but hopefully it won't be repeated. That is what the feedback could potentially accomplish.
Yeah. So that was, and we'll talk about the rest of the expansion when we get to Decksplanations. We talked about the gift cards already. That is in the new patch.
Well, we didn't talk about Califero.
Coilifera.
What?
That's how it's pronounced.
What?
Coilifero. Yeah, that is the pronunciation guide that I have gotten.
Califero?
Coilifero.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
With a long eye.
I think you might be if that ever makes it into a deck in Masters Tours.
Nope. I will make this argument that I was told it's pronounced like colorful, similar, and so Califero is as close to colorful as I can get. So Califero, the artist.
Okay. His name is Bob.
That's not in English usually how you would do a long I sound, and there is logic more. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
So but we'll talk. I have him listed in under the rest of the set, so we can talk about him when we get to the expansion as well. Because I have all the cards in a particular order, and you will break my OBS setup that I spent 2 hours doing if you try to go out of order. So please don't.
Okay.
But we will talk about him, promise. So they also, again, 10-year anniversary, fast forward, and then we get to a very big Battlegrounds update. So the quests are back in Battlegrounds. Again, there is a long list of the new and returning quests. We will not enumerate them because that is not good podcasting. But you can go and read the patch notes and see which ones are coming back. A lot of them are coming back, not all of them. There are some new ones that are revolving around spells. There are also new and returning rewards. The most interesting one is what is it? I don't know what it's called, but effectively it gives you Avenge 7, summon a 50-50 amalgam, which is a very normal horse. Which is you just have to go and look for I don't have the art for that up here, but you just go and look for it. You'll find pictures of it on the internet on Twitter. It is delightful. There are some new minions. There are also some spells that are minion type specific that will only be offered in lobbies that have those particular minions. That is new to this patch as well. So for example, I'm trying to find one that is so Scavenge for Parts is a tier 4 spell that costs 4 gold. At the end of your turn, get a random magnetic minion last 3 turns. So that would only be offered in a lobby with mechs. Similarly, Cloning Conch is a tier 5 gold spell. Get a copy of Murloc in here. So those are going to be there as well. So you can take a look at that. There are also some minions that have been returned to the pool, and some minions that have been removed from the pool. So again, all of that. Again, I'm not reading out lists. You can go read that, but if you are a Battlegrounds player, that is something that you'll already be on top of it, or you should go and see what's changing before you go and queue in if you're someone who plays a little bit more casually. We also have bug fixes. Again, there is a long list, and we still have a lot to talk about, so we're not going to go through all of them. The big system change is that the final phase of the modular download project for mobile devices is now complete, and players will now be able to selectively download Battlegrounds or remove it from their device through the download manager. So one cool thing that I noticed when I updated my client in the pizza shop on Wednesday, because I had forgotten to do it while I was home like a normal person, is that when you're downloading Battlegrounds, the Battlegrounds button actually turns into a status bar for the download. It is very cool. So you can see why, it'll download standard first, and then if you have Battlegrounds enabled, it'll go and download Battlegrounds after it's finished the download for constructed, and then it'll show you a status bar over the Battlegrounds bar until it's done. So you can go into mobile and get rid of that. So if you're having space problems on your phone and you don't play Battlegrounds, take it off. Right? I'm not suggesting you do that generally, but there are still 8 gig phones that are in circulation, and Hearthstone is a big client. So if you need to do that, you can go and look and see what your options are. Some relevant constructed bug fixes. Eroded Sediment is it is a discover an element. I think if you played an elemental last turn, discover an elemental
From the past.
Thank you. It was giving elementals from any class, and instead of changing the way that it works, it's just changing the text to indicate that is the way that it works. So now you can get an elemental from any class with the Eroded Sediment, which might make people a little bit more likely to want to play it, because it sure as hell was not getting played before. So maybe in the 4-set meta, Elemental Shaman, especially with Kalamos being in core, will be something that people will try. School teacher can now the Nogglings can now properly be taught to play Heatwave and Misfire. They were just do nothing off of the Nogglings, and now they will do things. So, and fixed a bug. This is specifically for Yumigase that I'm calling this out. Fixed a bug where Thirsty Drifter's cost would go back up if a 1-cost minion was returned to. I don't. I guess Canary would be the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way that would happen, but also I realized as I was listening to Squelch today that we have not been calling it Sappy Bird all this time, and I don't know why.
Very true.
It even kind of looks right.
I'm going to give them credit for it because they said it, but I realized as I was listening to that we should have been calling it Sappy Bird this whole time, and I feel like I at least have failed everyone, and I apologize. Also, they fixed a bug where Shadow of Demise didn't activate quick draw effects. So I don't know if the Shadow of Demise has to have come into your hand, or if it just changing into the card is good enough. It's not clear from just the bug fix. So that's something that I'm realizing as I'm saying it out loud. I'm not sure if it counts as entering your hand if it transformed into the spell that turn, or if the actual Shadow of Demise card has to have entered your hand that turn.
Yeah, I always assumed that's what was going on, was that it had to have entered your hand this turn, but maybe, it didn't work either way.
So there are other bug fixes. There's you will have that fixed now. There are some known issues. A lot of them are revolving around the gift cards having incorrect costs. Also, the Shaman hand for Harth is appearing twice as often, and the Mage hand is not appearing at all, so they're going to fix that. And a couple other things, but a lot of it is revolving around the gift cards. And also, they have some new portraits in the shop, and they also added some signature commons for N'Zoth's First Mate and a Noyotron in certain bundles. The Noyotron is the saddest looking clown I've ever seen in my life. And you can buy those with packs. Either together, it's $20 if you want both of them, or you can buy them just a Noyotron or just N'Zoth's First Mate for $12 for the 2 copies of the signature plus some packs of Caverns of Time. So that's something you might be interested in. Okay, so that's patch notes. And now, an hour and 10 minutes in, we can finally talk about the expansion.
Oh, this is the place where all the magic begins. My workshop.
All right, that was worth it.
That was worth changing the bumper. All right, well, welcome to Whizbang's workshop. So we had a number of cards revealed in the announcement, as usual, and a couple of them have a lot of parts, but we'll do those last. The themes that we have in this set so far, there is a new keyword, Miniaturize. There are also a lot of throwback cards, and then we have some crazy cards.
And toys, a lot of toys.
Lots and lots of toys. And it's just really cute, really whimsical, and I am excited for the flavor of this set, even if the announcement trailer was very high-pitched the entire way through. So the new keyword, Miniaturize, is it goes on a minion, and when you play the minion, you get a 1/1 copy of that minion in your hand, a 1-mana 1/1 with the same effects. So for example, Amateur Puppeteer is a Death Knight, 5-mana 2/6 undead with a Blood and Unholy rune, and it says Miniaturize, Taunt, Death Rattle, give undead in your hand +2/+2. So when you play the Amateur Puppeteer, you will get a mini version, which does have mini toy art, to be clear, and they're very cute. You will get a mini version that when you play that, it gives the undead in your hand another +2/+2. So that's a huge hand buff if you want it. And the Miniaturize gets added first, so actually the first Amateur Puppeteer also buffs the mini version in your hand when you play it. So it's actually a 1 mana 3/3 in that particular case. Some of the other miniaturized cards that we saw in Druid, there is Chia Drake, 4 mana 2/4 dragon. Miniaturize, choose one, gain spell damage +1, or draw a spell. So you basically get to choose twice if you play the second one.
It's like twin spell. It's like twin spell for minions, effectively. I think they said that they were trying to figure out how to do twin spell for minions, and this is the way that you do that, because you don't want to give like the full stats each time and also make it really expensive. But this way you get the 1/1, so you can do it twice, but it's a little bit more flexible that way. And it's also adorable, which is important.
Yeah. Some of them, just like, the example you gave, the Chia Drake, it feels like there's almost a prescribed order, right? Like, okay. And I mean, in this case, since Druid's the only one to choose one, but like, okay, you play the 4 mana 2/4, you draw a spell. And then now you have a 1 mana 1/1 that gives spell damage +1, which particularly with having swipe back in core at 3 mana, that's going to be pretty good.
And that's flexible. You can play it as just +1 mana cost, do this twice in a turn, or you can hold on to that effect for when you need it. Maybe you don't have the swipe or whatever you want the +1 spell damage for now. You can play that later. And in general, the first half is a little bit understated for the cost, but then the second half has, and the kind of ability that you would normally not get on a 1-drop on it.
Right.
So it's a slight tempo loss, some of them at the beginning, but it can be quickly made up. The Tigress plushie is a bit interesting. So this is a paladin, 3 mana, 3/2 beast, miniaturize, rush, lifesteal, divine shield. So the one in this case, the stats do kind of matter on the miniaturized version. By the way, the art on the mini tiger plushie for this one is really good. So go check that out in the card collection if you haven't yet. But it is kind of a little mini Ziliax. Although we're getting a real Ziliax later.
We're getting a mega Ziliax, so yeah.
Which I find it impossible for that to not be my favorite card of the expansion, which is crazy to have seen already. I mean, we'll see how the rest of the reveals go, but having a deck building card just speaks to me. But in terms of this one, this Paladin miniaturized card just seems bonkers, right? Like, Paladin is a class of buffs. They're returning Liadrin to core, which suggests that even more there's going to be a buff theme for Paladin. And so being able to play this on curve, right, is a 3 mana 3/2 rush lifesteal divine shield. Like, that's very good.
Yeah, this is one that's really actually good on curve.
Yeah, either defensively, proactively, right? Like, you play a 1-drop and a 2-drop and run this out on 3. Like, you remove a thing, gain some life if necessary, and you've still got the body afterwards. And then you've got that 1/1 to just combo with whatever buffs you can, pick up to go with it. Like, worst case, you got a Blessing of Kings. That's a 5/5 divine shield rush lifesteal. Like, for 5.
Seems okay.
Oh, not bad. Can you imagine if this was a mech? I think there's a reason why it's not a little mech toy.
I think, honestly, I think there's a reason it's a beast. Because, presently, if you're doing the Highlander Paladin, then you potentially don't want to run any beasts because you want that 5-cost card to draw the Spirit of the Badlands and make it free. So, adding a little more tension of like, but there's beasts you want to run, so are you actually going to do that? Yeah.
And Miniaturize is actually really good with Spirit of the Badlands, because then you get more copies of the 1/1s.
Mm-hmm.
But there is another Miniaturize that you might run in that deck, because we saw the other paladin, or another paladin Miniaturize also.
That is a legendary Toy Captain Tarim, 5 mana 3/7, also a paladin card. Miniaturize, taunt, battle cry, set a minion's attack and health to this minion's. So if you remember Sunkeeper Tarim, that is his effect.
Not quite.
He hit everything to 3/3. That's true. Sorry.
Yeah.
It is reminiscent of his effect, but with the 3. So the first half could probably usually buff one of your own minions. Second half will shrink probably an opponent's minion to a 1/1. So it has this interesting different effects for each half without being a choose one like the druid.
So if they have a high attack minion, you may not care about setting the health to 7 if you're taking the attack down to 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it more flexible to have that. It also means it's not just a ton of charge damage. Like 3/7 is partly just to match Sunkeeper Terram, I'm sure, but also if it was like a high attack, that's just a ton of charge damage. It's still 3 charge damage, or 2 if it was a 1/1 to start with.
Or 6 if you have Shroomskavate, but you know.
I mean, the other thing you can do as well is, from what we can see, right? Tigress Plushie gives you its miniaturized version, its toy version, and then you play Terram on 6 with the miniature Tigress and have a 3/7 Divine Shield Rush Lifesteal. That's pretty great.
That can then take out the 1/1 minion that you just shrank down with the miniature version of Terran. So
sure.
Yeah. No. That seems pretty strong, and I like that it has that flexibility of both proactive and defensive, but that, would, in a way that works in the same deck and in the same card. And it definitely shows us they have a lot of cards that are callbacks to cards from earlier sets. Although they still have cool flavor, even if, like this is still really cool art, even if you don't remember Sunkeeper Terram. But if you do, then there's that reference. And that continues a list of cards that are throwbacks. So for example, they brought back the Spellstones, which were spells that upgrade in your hand if you do certain things. Every class had one, except for Death Knight and Demon Hunter did not exist yet when Spellstones were a thing. So they've given Spellstones, Cora said in the announcement video, to both Death Knight and Demon Hunter. We've only seen Death Knights yet. And Death Knights is the Spinel Spellstone. So it has a lesser version, a normal medium version, and a greater version. It's a 1 mana single blood rune. Give undead in your hand +1/+1, gain 5 corpses to upgrade. So if you gain 5 corpses, then it will give +2/+2. If you gain 5 more corpses, it'll give +3/+3 to undead in your hand.
I really hope that finally hand buff DK is a thing.
Surely this time.
Surely this time, yeah. They're finally pushing it. They're getting rid of some of the triple rune stuff. We're gonna have this 4-set meta. It's just like, please, let it be the time.
We're gonna have hand buff, Death Knight, and Overheal Priest, and that's gonna be the meta in the next expansion.
The one thing that gives me pause is that these 2 additions, the Amateur Puppeteer and the Lesser Spellstone, they only buff undead, and some of the things that are good with hand buffs are not undead. So
they're gonna have to print more undead, right? Like that's just. I mean, we also there's some that are staying around in core, but they have to print more undead for. I mean, Death Knight just gets undead the way that Hunter gets beast, right? Like they're still gonna get undead even if it's not necessarily the theme of the set.
They have shown us one that, if it works the way I think it does with buffs, is quite promising. It's a couple cards down.
Oh no, it doesn't. It doesn't work that way. I'll spoil that for you right now.
Why doesn't it work that way?
We'll talk about that when we get there. I'll explain to you why it doesn't work that way.
Well, I do like that they are trying to push because I always felt like, as someone who never enjoyed facing triple rune blood DK, I'm happy to see another identity for the blood rune in DK, and it sounds like the kind of deck that I might enjoy. And Amateur Puppeteer has an unholy rune in it, so this is not a triple blood deck, at least if we're running that card.
I do have some bad news for you, which is that it might be more playable with the changes they made, because with the rune reductions, Vampiric Blood and Mograine are the only triple blood cards now. So you can do Corpse Explosion and Soul Stealer with either an Unholy or a Frost, which might mean more likely to see Control Death Knight, even if it isn't triple blood.
Well, at least we won't have Vampiric Blood. I'll take my take my wins.
No,
like,
you'll
at
just
least I'll be
discover it'll be
playing
fine.
minions that have stats, as well as removing all my stuff.
It's a 4-set. It's a 4-set meta. Every time you discover a spell, it'll be Vampiric Blood. You'll
No,
be fine.
remember, you still can't discover triple runes.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But you can discover Soul Stealers now.
It's true. Yeah.
Anyway, we're having fun. Let's not ruin the fun now. Yes.
All right. Well, so that we can get to the card that was mentioned as not working with Spellstone first, we have a Shaman spell, Incredible Value. It is a 3-mana shadow spell. Discover a 4-cost minion, set its attack and health to 7. So anything can be a 4-mana 7/7.
But it's actually a 7-mana 7/7 because you paid 3 the turn before.
Yeah.
It's still on 4.
It's yeah.
It curves.
It's only 1 more than Flame Wreath Faceless, and you pay it before instead of after.
It's Preverload instead of Overload, right?
Yeah. I can't
You're
imagine
buying
this
it on
is-
layaway.
I'll have to see what kind of hits you can get, but I can't imagine this is going to be good, right? Take 3 off to get a 4-mana 7/7.
Yeah, you'll
I don't
discover it enough, right? Like that's the kind of thing that you'll discover and you'll just take it, right?
No more school teacher, though.
No, but prismatic elemental's still in standard, right?
Oh, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying, like, one of the potential ways, like, people aren't going to get 1-mana versions of this.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at what we're hitting. I guess a 7/7 Brass Elemental is not bad.
That's pretty good. That's probably the best one.
Yeah. Backstage Bouncer at 7/7.
That's not bad, actually.
not bad.
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work.
What else could you get? Infested Watcher, Taunt, Death Rattle, get 2 1/1 Chaotic Tendrils. There was a card that you did not remember existed until I just said this.
Indeed.
Because I didn't remember until I just saw it. And I had to click on it to see.
There is a new 4-drop we could get, though.
There is a new 4-drop we could get. Eloise, would you like to read this card?
Well, sadly, it doesn't work the way I hoped, but Nesting Golem is a 4-mana 4/3 undead with Death Rattle. Resummon this with -1/-1. So if any of you remember the Warrior Legendary Rattlegore, which was a 9-mana 9/9 with this effect, it's basically that, but in smaller form. Great for DK anyways, even though buffing it won't mean that you can have it summon itself longer. But it still is going to give you a bunch of corpses. So, potentially 3, right? Because they have to kill it a few times. You'll have 4/3, and then the 3/2, and then the 2/1. So,
And if you can give it Reborn, then it's
oh gosh, yeah.
because it is undead, so you could use the is it Mosh Pit? Which one is it that gives?
It's Mosh Pit, yeah.
Yeah, that gives Reborn to an undead. So you could give it Reborn, and that might be relevant. The reason it doesn't work with the buffs is it works like Rattlegore does, which is when you resummon it, it resummons with base stats.
Mm-hmm.
So like whenever you like if you have like a buffed minion that's Reborn, it doesn't come back with the attack that it had before in 1 health. It comes back with the original attack and then 1 health. So
That is how Rattlegore used to work as well, if I remember correctly, because I used to play the Nameless one, which was a 4-mana 4/4 battle cry. Choose a minion, become a 4/4 copy of it, then silence it. I would play it. I would be sitting there like, please play Rattlegore against me.
Worst.
It would be a 4/4 Rattlegore, but then when it died, it would be back to full size -1/-. Yeah.
It would be an 8/8 after it died, yeah.
And I made lots of people concede against me just out of rage by doing
so,
that.
all I'm going to say is that Ridiculous Hat works for Team 5 now. And if the voice line on this is not progressively higher pitched with each successive resummon, he is going to hear about it from me because he has the power to make that happen now.
I don't think that's true.
I know he doesn't, but he could at least annoy people until it happens. So
if we knew far enough in advance, maybe. But I doubt they're gonna get the voice actor to be like, we're gonna need you to send a couple more files.
They don't need to do the voice actor. They just throw it into Audacity and just
I guess that's
tweak the pitch. You know.
Yeah. The art is super cute on Nesting Golem, by the way.
Is that cute? Okay.
It's Rattlegore as a little Russian doll.
Yeah, it's thematic. Cute is not exactly the term I would use.
I mean, it does have a skull, and well, it is fun art. We'll say it's fun art.
Noodle Swoop also points out in chat that Death Growl is a card that spreads the death rattle.
Very true, and you can do that on things that have higher base. Oh no!
Reska?
Wait. Are plagues sticking around? They are,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Guardian. Chained Guardian.
Chained Guardian is one. Reska's another one.
Wicked. It will death rattle, resummon with -1/-1, and that will still have Reborn.
Oh, yeah, that will. That's also terrifying.
Yeah, a 7/4 with Reborn. That becomes an 8/1 when it dies.
Oh, that's terrifying. I don't like that at all. Okay, well, do you feel better now?
I mean,
it didn't work the way you wanted it to, but you've discovered all kinds of new things that you can do.
Whether or not that's worth it, I don't know. I think Kraken stays around as well. So Kraken on Nesting Golem could be pretty wacky.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, if it resummons though, then it doesn't. Well, I guess you get the extra copy of it, but the Kraken itself. Oh yeah, no, the Kraken to get another Nesting Golem, not putting the Nesting Golem death rattle on Kraken.
Correct.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know which way the mad scientist brain is going, so I need to take a little bit to keep up.
Yeah.
But yeah. Put that on your list of things that you want to play in theory crafting.
Yeah. Goodness. Well.
All right, we have a couple of warrior minions. So this is a toy shop, but also they have fireworks and other things that explode. And some mad inventors, including Inventor Boom. But first, one of his minions is Fireworker, a 5-mana 5/5 mech. Death Rattle, summon 2 1/1 boom bots. Warning, bots may explode. You have to have that text on there because that is tradition for boom bots. So the boom bots, if you don't remember them, are 1 mana 1/1 mechs, death rattle, deal 1 to 4 damage to a random enemy. And so this is basically original Dr. Boom, except for it's a death rattle to summon the boom bots, and it's a 5 mana 5/5. And as we know, original Dr. Boom was crazy good at the time. Wouldn't really pass muster now.
I mean, it's in core now, and nobody's played him for the whole year.
Yeah, everyone was like, "Oh, we're getting Dr. Boom," and then literally never saw him. But Fireworker may be a little bit more playable, being less expensive. I'm not sure if we're getting a mech theme for Warrior in this expansion. It seems like
we are, based on what Inventor Boom is doing. It seems like we're getting more mechs.
Yes. So, and we do have some mechs in standard right now for Warrior, but we'll be able to see much better once we have the Warrior reveals. So, Inventor Boom is an 8-mana 7/7. Battlecry, resurrect 2 friendly mechs that cost 5 or more. They immediately attack random enemies. So that would be part of why you have the boombots as a death rattle on the Fireworker. If you get this back, you want to get more boombots back. If it was a Battlecry, you wouldn't. I'm trying to see if clearly there seems like they're going to make other cards that are supposed to go with this.
I mean, we'll get to a big one later, right? Which is Celiacs.
We will. That is true. That is probably actually the main thing that you're supposed to get with it. I'm searching for mechs.
It seems like we're going through these quickly. 2 of these cards are whole libraries unto themselves.
Yes.
So
yeah,
we're not even halfway through. We'll be halfway through once we have 2 cards left.
Yeah.
I'm keeping a quick pace because we have things coming. And also I have been at work in we need to finish the curriculum by June mode. So everything's going faster. So yeah, Inventor Boom, we'll get back to him in just a second, what he might be resurrecting. There's not really anything.
I mean, it's going to be Burrow Buster a lot of the time, right? That's going to be the one that you're probably just going to end up resurrecting because you're going to probably be running Excavates and Warrior, and so Burrow Buster will be there. The other ones that are relatively interesting are I think Containment Unit is still...
Containment Unit is staying, yeah.
That's kind of okay. Mothership is with Sunken City, so that's rotating. And like one Amalgam Band, which is just going to be a vanilla 6/6, which is kind of...
Yeah, you don't really want the one Amalgam Band.
Oh, or Flame Behemoth. I mean, Flame Behemoth's just going to be a 4/5 if you were to play it. So yeah, we're clearly going to be getting other big mechs, but like Burrow Buster and Containment Unit are the ones that stick out right now.
I mean, honestly, Fireworker and Ziliax alone, I think, are pretty solid. I would expect there will be like at least one more option. You don't print
a legendary like that if you're not making
right,
big mechs.
and maybe a questionable one in neutral. But you remember, this is 4 set. There's going to be 2 more expansions in which there could end up being a big mech at some point. But even with just Fireworker and Ziliax, I think this is quite solid, particularly because one of the Ziliax options is a Death Rattle, shuffle it into your deck, so it kind of ends up being more. Yeah. I'm excited about this one, particularly as well, because there will be a reason to like play, and I mean, you can definitely play this in Arena Warrior, and you would double the battle cry, which I'm realizing is pretty great. But but even if you don't do that, right? Like, I want a reason to play Justicar True Heart Warrior. I want to tank up, rank up. So if I can throw this in there, as additional stuff besides Odin, that'd be pretty sweet. And they immediately attack random enemies, which means if your opponent doesn't have a board, they go face.
That is a lot of damage, especially if you've played Brand, but even if you haven't. So there will be a number of cards. This is not a keyword, but kind of a theme that they'll have, just like they often have in sets. So Wind Up Musician is a neutral 6-mana 5/5 with tradable. Battlecry, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions, trade to upgrade. And so there will be other cards where you trade them to upgrade them. So, I mean, potentially this could be a big clear, but you have to draw it and then trade it and then draw it. Like, the fact that it starts at
Absolutely
1
not.
seems like really low. Like, if it feels like it should start at 3 and improve faster or be cheaper.
I think this one is a good demonstration of the possibilities. I don't think this particular card will be good because you have to trade a lot.
And every time you trade it, you're paying a mana to trade it. So you're paying a lot for this board clear, actually. Like,
I have probably played the most Amulets of Undying out of the 3 of us. and I could assure you, as someone who was a connoisseur of Amulet of Undying, that takes a long time to get to a point where it's going to be useful unless your deck is almost empty. And if your deck is almost empty, at that point, this is not the ability that you want to be juicing up. I have no doubt that there will be other wind-up cards that are more interesting than this. This is obviously like the first one that they're going to show us that's going to be demonstrating the concept, and there are other things that are going to be better than this, but it is worth noting that trading in and expecting... You only get the tradable back if you don't want it. That's science. Right? So if you have a lot of cards in your deck, then it's going to just take you a while to get through. Now, granted, Renathal's going away. Yay! So you'll have less cards that you'll need to churn through, but it's still going to take you a while to get those juiced up if they upgrade slowly like this.
And if you have 2 of them in your deck for some reason, you're only upgrading the particular one that you trade, not both of them.
Yes.
As, again, someone who also played, maybe not nearly as much, but also played with Amulet of Undying, you would always draw the other one instead of the one that you needed.
I am going to go ahead and say on the record, though, that I will be surprised if somehow there's not a thing where, you're running 2 of them, you get your deck down to 2 cards, and you just, like, alternate trading the 2 things, and then somehow those cards kill the opponent.
Yeah. I mean, that was the shtick with Amulet of Undying, right?
Yeah.
That you would just get down to 2 and then just keep cycling them a lot and then get them both up to 7. Because that was the number that mattered, because that was how many board spaces you had. But
the one time where you want to trade the card and get the other version of the card, which normally is just the troll. There was a Trollden clip where someone just traded the same card into the same card for like a whole 10 mana turn. It was
probably Shard of the Naru or something.
Yeah.
I think it was Viper. Just
Okay, yeah.
traded a Viper, got the other Viper, traded a Viper, got the other Viper, and just like got so fixated on needing to trade this out that like didn't switch course. Surely the way luck works, this will stop.
Mhm.
All right. Well, we're getting into our fancy legendaries. We will start with the least fancy one, which is Colifero. Is this?
That's what Leo says. I don't believe him, but that's what he says.
You know,
So, I mean, I do believe him because he's Leo, but I don't believe that that's how words work.
this is what happens when people don't learn phonetically. These are the kinds of things we end up with.
Are you about to go into a kids these days rant? Because I'm all here for it. But
I mean, that's basically the rant. Look, you gotta learn phonetics, not whole word pronunciation, because then you end up with these wacky things that don't make sense. But anyway.
So what we're saying is that we're not mispronouncing it. It's the children who are wrong.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think this is going to show up in any Masters Tour, but if it did, I will be saying Colifero.
We have it said now, and I'm literally, for my homework in my grad school certificate class this week, was like literally writing about teaching spelling and spelling patterns and why it's not nearly as crazy as it sounds, but like there are rules, they just depend on the origin of the word, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's it. That's the whole rant. So, Colifero the artist is an 8-mana 6/5 legendary elemental. Battle cry, draw a minion, transform all other friendly minions into copies of it. And this is the minion that, if you haven't logged in yet, then you will get when you log in. This is available now. People are playing with it. I know that Potato Cat in the Discord was playing around with a painter druid where you're basically running a lot of token creation spells and Neptulon and Stoneborn General.
Yep.
And ramp. And that is the deck.
Yeah. And I think that I'm not sure about this. I think I heard that there are other artist cards in the set, and they all draw because they're artists.
Oh God. Okay. Yep.
Yet more things where the team that has to translate these things for the rest of the world is like, oh God.
Yeah.
So I tried one deck with this, and I quit after I managed to actually play this. I did not win the game, but I managed to play this and get a board of the Stormborn Generals. I played Mage, with this being the only elemental, and then Mezzadune could draw it.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a 4-mana 3/2 copy or whatever. So ran, cold cases and synchronize, and of course keyboard, right? These ways of and the location ways of generating minions, and then all the minions were just big end, right? So only elemental is Colifero, and then I had Invincible, which is a hilarious one because if you get a full board of Invincibles, then if one dies, they buff the others, right? It's pretty cool.
Oh my gosh!
All reborn, and then Stormborn General and. Questionable this one, but I did the Colossal, right? The Mage Colossal. Because theoretically, if you had just a few minions and they get turned into the Colossal, Gaia.
That would add up, yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you have one of the rush arms and you've got a bunch of the main bodies, right? The ability triggers for each of them. So, yeah. I of course got Reno'd after I.
Of course you did. I mean that's just the way these things go. I'm surprised that you didn't just build it to draw Sif and then kill them with one Arcane Bolt.
What, Sif is the only minion?
I guess, yeah. And then you just draw it, and then you have a bunch of junk minions in there anyway, and then or you just try to do it, or you have a bunch of minions and you just try, and then and then you send that clip into Trollden and you go about your business, right? I mean, that's
sure. I don't want to go down to 10K trying to make that happen one time.
Right.
But
Just put a bug in Clark's ear. He'll do it for you.
So, a maybe promising one, or at least slightly better because it at least kills the opponent, is people are messing around with Demon Hunter, which has some token generators, right, in terms of Illidari stuff, and it also has Illidari Inquisitor. So the deal is...
yeah, it sure does.
You can do Scythe with your minions being Arcanist for defensively, and then Califero and Illidari Inquisitor. You pull Inquisitor and Califero out of the Scythe, or out of the soul things, and then you use Dispose of Evidence to shuffle
Oh, God almighty.
Illidari Inquisitor back into the deck.
Why are we not just playing an actual copy of Illidari Inquisitor?
Because you're playing the Scythe.
You are still allowed, like, you could put two because then you couldn't be certain that the Scythe would put the right things inside it. Yeah.
Like, I could see a world where instead of doing Scythe, you go draw your two lowest cost minions and you just got two Inquisitors and Califero and maybe something else. But I understand the logic with the Scythe. Regardless.
Logic, yes.
Yeah, so you end up having to shuffle in the Inquisitor. It also then gives you the attack to attack with the Inquisitor. So theoretically, on turn 8, after you've pulled them both from from the Scythe, you can have a board of stuff. Shuffle Inquisitor in, play Califero. They all turn into Inquisitors. You attack face, and boom, hopefully win the game. I think it's still really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it continues as a pre-release card, it's a fun build around, and it's not that great. It's probably exactly where we want to be on the announcement free legendary.
Yes.
Yeah. We haven't had an Okani in a while.
Yeah, I think ETC was probably the closest one, right? Because
location, the Yogg location.
Oh yeah, the Yogg location.
Yogg
That's probably the best one in recent memory.
Yeah. I guess so. Yeah.
Which it took a minute to realize was in fact actually, unfortunately, in some senses, playable.
Yeah. I don't know if it's gonna get. It probably gets better actually with rotation.
Depends on what the pool looks like, but yeah.
Smaller pool is usually better. I guess I don't know if discard your hand thing is rotating.
It is.
Forget.
Yeah.
Tome tampering. Yeah.
Tampering, yeah.
So it's better.
Yeah. It's better. It's better for exactly McBanter face. Yeah.
I did have that happen to me as well once, but it does mean that we won't have that happen again in a Masters tour. Although really, that's a one and done thing to happen in a tournament. You don't need that to happen again. Already had the most crazy game with that we could possibly have had. All right, it is time. Adel, I will let you read this card.
So, Ziliax Deluxe 3000. This is one of the most ambitious cards that the team has ever made. So, it doesn't say anything for its mana cost or its stats because it just says, while building your deck, customize your very own Ziliax Deluxe 3000. It is a mech, no matter what, but there are 8 pieces for which you pick 2 during deck building that will fuse together to create your very own, specific Ziliax. And on top of it all, you also get to pick any of the artwork. So there's 8 different artwork options that you can put regardless of what you fuse together. And yeah, create your very own custom Hearthstone card. But from these preset options, which the ways to combine these are just, they're so elegant. They're so delightful. The possibilities are just boundless. So first things first, we have Recursive Module, a 1 mana, 1/1, Death Rattle. Shuffle this into your deck. Haywire Module, 2 mana, 4/4. At the end of your turn, deal 3 damage to your hero.
Yeah, I guess we should add here that you're combining the costs and the stats. So if you were to combine those two together, you would have a 3 mana 5/5.
Exactly. Power Module, 2 mana, 1/3. At the start of your turn, double this minion's attack. Pylon module, 3 mana 2/2. Your other minions have +1/+1. That's an aura. Virus module, 3 mana 1/3. Stealth, elusive, which is the new/old keyword, right? That says it can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. Poisonous, and reborn. Twin module, 4 mana 3/3. Battle Cry, summon a copy of this. Ticking module, 4 mana 1/3, costs 1 less for each minion in play. And then Perfect module, which is just old Ziliax, right? It is 5 mana 3/2, Divine Shield, Taunt, Lifesteal, Rush. So the obvious one is Haywire module and Perfect module. You get a 7 mana 7/6 Divine Shield, Taunt, Lifesteal, Rush. That at the end of your turn, deal 3 damage to your hero, except since it has lifesteal, you basically get rid of that downside. Other options include maybe Pylon module with the Virus module. So it has stealth, and you just have this aura buffing all your minions that's stealthed. Ticking module with the Perfect module is potentially a way of having like a Ziliax if that gets cheaper if they have a bunch of stuff in play. I kind of feel like ticking module's the worst one. But
I feel like you need something like Showdown to go with that.
Yeah.
Although that's still paying 2 mana for the Showdown, but then it does reduce by 6.
The thing about it is that like none of these are like a board clear exactly for like you could do ticking module and twin module maybe. I don't know. No, that doesn't.
Then it
make
doesn't
sense.
have Rush. Yeah.
Like you can't do twin. Like you want to do like twin virus and perfect all together, but that doesn't work.
I mean, you could do ticking and pylon so that it gives you a board buff that's cheaper if you have a board.
It is your minions included in the cost 1 less for each minion in play. So I guess that's probably the thing that makes the most sense is, you get this cheap aura that's then a 3/5 minion. But some of the crazier things are like, okay, Virus module, Power module. You have a 5 mana 2/6 stealth, elusive, poisonous, reborn that you can just leave there stealthed, and at the start of your turn, it doubles its attack.
Yeah, and I guess this is the point where we should mention that the stats that you're combining are like foundational stats. So like when you're done with this is the minion. It's not like these are buffs or anything. So like if you put those two together, like the minion in your deck and what it will get reborn as is a 5 mana 2/6. So if it comes back, it'll come back as a 2/1 with stealth, elusive, poisonous.
Right.
When the reborn part comes back.
But like you could do stuff like Power module plus whatever you want, maybe twin module, and you do that in a hand buff deck, right? Where it doubles its attack at the start of your turn. You also summon a copy. Recursive module, I think, is one of the scarier ones, where you shuffle this into your deck, right? You just do recursive with perfect. You've got a 6 mana 4/3 Ziliax, basically, that shuffles into your deck and comes back off of boom.
I mean, if you never want to go to fatigue, you could go recursive and twin.
Yeah. Doesn't do anything the turn you play it, but it costs 5 for a pair of 4/4s, and it'll keep shuffling in. Exactly, unless they have a silence.
I mean, I could legitimately see playing that in a control deck for fatigue situations.
Especially in a 4 set.
Yeah, you do not lose in fatigue ever unless it gets silenced, which it probably will. But Shard of the Nard was going away, so maybe it won't.
It gets renode is what happens, but if it's already died at least once before it gets renode, then you're
or you just kill it off immediately, right? Like you just like shield slam it or whatever, or you like, I don't know what you do to it in Priest now. Everything gone, but whatever. Yeah.
If we're thinking boom possibilities, right? Who resurrects stuff that costs, or mechs that cost 5 or more, Virus plus Perfect, right? Gives you an 8 mana 4/5 Divine Shield, Taunt, Lifesteal, Rush, Poisonous, Reborn, Elusive, Stealth.
This is basically like Kaisa from Runeterra, is what this is.
Exactly. This is all the keywords.
It's basically a one amalgam band, except for they can't target it.
Yeah, exactly. And because of the Reborn, just playing it once, you'll get 2 of them, right? So Boom can resurrect 2. And because of the Divine Shield, even if it hits minions, right, they're going to stick around. So that can be a big swing, kill stuff. You could also do, Pylon module with anything, right? And Boom resummoning will buff the stuff up. Unfortunately, certain combinations of the cheap ones, Boom wouldn't be able to get back because they would cost less than 5. But I just love how many options there are.
You could do like Twin and Pylon. You get double buffs, and they buff each other 1 because you get a copy of the that's expensive, but another there's just, it seems like so many types of decks can find something, and there's also so many options that I don't think we're going to discover on day 1 that the only good one is X and X. But there probably will be one Ziliax that emerges in the first week as the thing most people are doing, because that's always what happens in an early meta, is that something gets figured out first. But there's so many options, and they're so different for different types of decks. I think we're going to see a lot of really different Ziliax.
Yeah, like an aggro deck could go Haywire and Power and have a 4-mana 5/7 that at the start of your turn double this minion's attack.
Yeah, who needs a 4-mana 7/7?
So I just want to prepare everyone that we have had a year of what's in ETC whenever anybody posts a deck list. And now we're signing up for a year of what's the Ziliax, because it's not going to be clear when somebody shares the deck list.
I think it will, actually. I mean, I guess it depends how you're viewing it, right? But I think you will be able to mouse over the card and see.
Not if somebody's sharing just like a picture of the deck list on Twitter.
I'm not sure.
You'll be able to see the cost, but that's not going to tell you enough.
I guess it's just going to be called Ziliax Deluxe 3000. Yeah. You know what? Worth it.
It's worth it. Just people,
it's
please.
So amazing.
And I'm sure that Donkey will find a way to parse the deck string to show us as soon as possible and stuff like that.
I don't know if you can, if it just calls it Ziliax in the deck list.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see how that's going to work.
Hopefully the deck string has enough information for sites to be able to adapt to it.
I'm glad I'm not decoding deck strings anymore for the dashboard, I'll tell you that much, because I don't want to figure that out.
Just as good etiquette, always just say what your Ziliax is when you post your deck.
Also say what's in ETC, and also how is ETC.
Yeah. So, I mean, it does mean that we do have a neutral legendary that's going to be in basically everything, because it can be anything to, like, there'll be very few decks where you're not going to want one of these combinations, I feel like.
So, I guess the important question is Ziliax a sandwich?
No.
It's made of metal, that disqualifies it. Among other things. It's just reason 1. But I'm very much looking forward to this card. And it's the kind of thing that I think, even if you're not the kind of deck builder that Edelweiss is, you can still have a lot of fun customizing what you want your Ziliax to be for a given deck. Because there's so many options, even in particular types of decks, that just seem like they would be really powerful. So
and just flavor-wise, like, it evokes, like, if you've ever gone to Disney World and they've got, like, the build your own lightsaber kiosk in, like, the Star Wars gift shop, like, that's what this feels like to me. It feels like a build your own lightsaber, which is just perfect.
Yeah. So exciting.
All right. Well, we have one more card, which was revealed today as we're recording this.
So if you don't want to figure out what to put in your deck,
then you can play Splendiferous Whizbang, which is a 4-mana 4/5 legendary, but that's not the point. Point is, if you put this into your deck, it will replace anything else that was in your deck. It will be the only card, and it will say you start the game with one of Whizbang's experimental decks. So we have seen this effect before, where you just need this one card, and then you randomly get one of the Whizbang decks. There are 12.
Oh, well, breaking news, actually. There's only going to be 11. This is late breaking news that there was supposed to be a copycat deck, and there will not be at launch.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there was no copycat deck. Okay.
Yeah.
Just as well.
delete that.
That's the worst
Just as
one.
well.
that is literally like I actually just like logged into the creator Discord to get the the list of what the decks were and just saw that notification. So yeah.
I put pictures of everything into the show notes as we were talking. So that will also be there for you, listener, if you want to take a look. But okay, so there are 11 possible decks. We don't know all of the details exactly of what's in each one, although if you click on Splendiferous Whizbang in the card library, the related cards, there's like 100. I tried to sit there and like see if I could parse it, and then I gave up.
No, thank you.
But we do have a little bit of information about what each one would be. So one is the Rainbow deck. This deck has cards from all classes and spell schools, but it will be like a deck that they've built. Like these are not just like purely random.
And you get the corresponding hero power. So even though this is going to have cards from all classes and spell schools, it will be Death Knight hero power.
Yes. All of these do have a class, and that determines your hero power and what class you count as for any effects that care about that, etc. The Demon Hunter one is Deck of Wishes. This deck contains 3 wishes that give you the perfect card. That's an effect we've seen. There was a Tavern Brawl. Was that also in Duels?
It was either in Duels or Dungeon Run, where you could add a wish to your deck. It was like a 0 mana card, I think, and then it would do the Zephyrus thing. I don't know what the pool. I don't know what the pool of cards for wishes is, because that was originally Legacy, and I have no idea what kind of a pool these wishes are going to draw from. But I guess we're going to find out when we play it, because
I assume the wishes are still just like as if you played Zephyrus.
Yeah, but the pool is like completely different, right? Like the Zephyrus was pulling from Classic.
No, but it's a fixed thing. Like Zephyrus pulls from the Zephyrus
like
stuff.
a Zephyrus pool. Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying.
This is the same as that. There's no reason to change it because that was already insane to create in the first place.
I mean, yeah. If Celestalon wants to take on more work and deal with, I'm just looking forward. I mean, this is going to be a niche thing, but I'm sure that the team does not want to sign up for 2 more years. Of why did it give me this?
Celestalon made a puzzle for this set.
And the point is to have the nostalgia factor, right? So I think anyone who played with Zephyrus has good memories of Zephyrus. This works exactly like him, and all that muscle memory you have of how to get the particular card that you want, which I'm sure people will post guides again of how to do that. That's all still relevant. And that was always a really fun card to play with because, kind of by definition, so flexible. You can find lethal, you can find ramp, you can find board clears. So, and the wish, I believe, is 0 mana. So
I believe so, yeah.
That makes it extra flexible. And you have 3 of them. So we have no idea what the rest of this deck looks like, but 3 0 mana wishes seems pretty good.
If it can do any kind of pressure, I think it'll be pretty decent. Because Zephyrus was generally good for finding lethal.
You just play it on 10 and get Pyroblast. Easy. Done.
As long as you have other ways to survive there. You play the other 2 to get there. The Druid one, Deck of Discovery. This one, we do know exactly what it is. Your deck is filled with cards that discover Druid spells and minions. So, like, everything you draw... Actually, I'm not sure if it's every single card or just a lot of cards in this deck.
I believe it's every single card, yeah.
Every single card is just a 0 mana spell that allows you to discover a Druid spell or minion. So, you're basically playing a Tavern Brawl deck there.
I mean... At least, wait, are the minions also specifically Druid minions?
Yes, I believe
Okay.
so. I'm
That makes
pulling
it-
that up now.
Better than if you could see neutral minions. If you could see neutral minions, this would be real bad.
Oh, it's actually, so it's discover a druid spell, a druid minion, or a neutral minion you can afford to play.
Okay.
Oh,
That
okay.
mitigates the disaster, but including neutrals still generally makes discover minion.
Well, no,
things.
they're separate choices, right?
So
There's
there's
three-
always
there's
going to
three-
be one spell, one druid minion, one neutral minion. I think. It is discover a druid spell, a druid minion, or a neutral minion. It doesn't say choose one. So my guess
Yeah.
is that there's one spell, there's one druid
Oh,
minion,
okay.
there's
Then
one neutral
it's going to
minion.
be like when you have three
Oh.
three secrets from 3 different classes.
Oh, boy.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
That seems pretty rough. But okay.
Well, only one of the choices is going to be a neutral, right? The other two are always going to be class cards.
Yeah.
I mean, you're signing up for chaos when you do this, right?
That's
like
true. Yeah.
I don't think that like you're not going on. I mean, I'm sure somebody is going to try to climb the legend with Whizbang. Like that's going to
of course.
happen. But like
All the content creators just have to do it.
but most mortals are not going to be climbing a ladder with this, so it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it has, we've had Tavern Brawls with you can afford to play. On the one hand, it does mean you'll be able to play proactively in the early turns. On the other hand, that does mean you can't bank up any expensive cards for later. So you can kind of gas out more easily that way. Because you're not guaranteed an on-curve card just this much or less. So you can get stuck on later turns with just low-cost stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be miserable playing against that deck though, because you're going to have to sit there and wait for them to discover and then read all the cards every turn before they get to do anything.
We also have in Hunter, Deck of Legends. This deck has 2 copies of legendaries. We don't know what these legendaries are. They will be fixed, but we do have 2 Muklas in the art.
There are 2. Everyone has 2 Muklas inside of them.
And they're both jamming together on top of a table. Apparently, according to this art, which is kind of fun art. So, I mean, I would imagine some sort of big beast hunter type of situation going on. I don't know what those legendaries look like post rotation. We'll have to find out. But it will be big legends, is my guess. All right, the mage one is Deck of Wonders. Cards in this deck transform into random playable cards each turn while in hand.
This sounds so
this
miserable.
one really is just pure random Tavern Brawl.
They
should have called that deck of
sounds
chaos is what they should have called that.
awful.
That's what that is. Yeah.
Awful.
What's the name of the card that does that? Your entire deck
Camellios?
is that.
Camellios
No.
is from your opponent's deck, but yeah.
Shifter Xeris?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shifter Xeris was just minions. This is just cards. Yeah. But yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It is mage or neutral, I should specify. Not anything. But it does include neutrals.
There was a mage spell that was basically shifter, but for mage spells, right? It transformed into a random mage spell each turn. Yeah, this is worse than either of those. Because it's both minions and spells.
Yep.
Well, you'll only get it 1 out of
good
11
luck.
times. So,
Which means you'll get it every single time that you face an actual meta deck when you're playing this.
Of course.
I guess theoretically, if you got a handful of stuff and everything transforms every turn, there's decent odds that something will be worth playing on a given turn.
As long as you randomly find enough draw, then you might be okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, the draw could be an issue, but this does have art of like a tiny little Cthulhu type creature creating lots of little shifting toys.
Mhm.
So check out that art. We also have in Paladin, Deck of Heroes. All it says is, this deck is heroic, in all caps with an exclamation point. And in the art, we have the League of Explorers. And that is what we know about this deck. Presumably, we've got some Leagues of Explorers going on.
Well, or a bunch of hero cards.
Hopefully not the original ones.
Hopefully not the original ones. Or, yeah, if we do, we have draw so that we can do other things. It seems like it would probably be a Highlander deck so that you could have at least one of the Renos. like Reno, the hero Reno, is both a hero and a League of Explorer.
Mhm.
And Elise is Highlander and a League of Explorer.
And so is Bran.
Too. And so is Bran. And they're not paladins, so maybe they wouldn't be in this deck.
I kind of think they can do whatever they want with these, right?
I mean, given everything else we've seen, I wouldn't be surprised if they just throw some League of Explorers from other classes.
It's not like you need to find a source of red mana to play Bran.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
So speaking of Priest, we have the Septuplet deck. This deck has 7 copies of Astral Automaton, and presumably other cards that allow you to get even more copies of Astral Automaton.
One would think. This seems like gives us... I mean, the one we have the most information on is Deck of Discovery, right? Because it just is that. Yeah. But I think this one is kind of next most, where we can assume that
we know 7 of the 30 cards in it, which is more than we know about a lot of the other decks. So
right. And we can guess that the rest of it will also be based around copying Astral Automaton.
I mean, these are pre-constructed decks that are designed to do a thing, and presumably that thing is make lots of Astral Automatons.
I will say, on Deck of Heroes, there are a lot of hero cards in the related cards for Splendiferous Whizbang.
Oh.
Like a lot of them.
That does not seem good. Like, having a lot of heroes is not actually great because you don't get to keep all the hero powers.
I don't know if there's any randomness there.
You get and you also get 5 armor return, which is not nothing.
I guess.
But yeah, I don't know. I can't. There's so many here. I can't count how many, so I don't know. But there definitely are some heroes. Although some of them, they seem to have listed like the base heroes.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna drive yourself insane trying to figure this out. By the way,
what I want to know though, is what related cards are Duel's treasures?
There are more than 5. So interestingly, Deck of Treasures says this deck has 5 Duel's treasures in it. So I was like, which 5? And there's more than 5 here.
No.
I see the Exorciser, Pure Cold, Bubba, Holy Book, Krusty the Crustacean, Looming Presence, Spyglass, Clockwork Assistant, Puzzle Box, Hyper Blaster, Gnomish Army Knife, Wand of Disintegration, Staff of Scales. Anyway, keeps going. There's quite a few.
That suggests to me that it's 5 random ones. Which
if I was a designer on the Hearthstone team and I really wanted to troll everybody, I would just add every card in the set in the game into the related cards for that deck and just say
I mean, they may have it may have all the Duel's treasures as related cards, but it actually is the same 5 every time. I could see that potentially being the case. But it also may just mean like it's a deck of 25 cards and you shuffle 5 random treasures in at the start, right? Like,
yeah, could be.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the related cards is not long enough to have every card in every one of these decks.
Mm-hmm.
It has like the heroes that you might turn into because you're not playing as Whizbang.
Mm-hmm.
You like turn into the hero that matches the deck that you got. They seem to have that. They seem to have ones that relate to the special abilities of each deck here. So I think it is just like all of the Duel's treasures, or at least all of the ones that they think are okay to show up in a Whizbang deck, which does appear to be most of them. There's a lot here. And then all of the ones that go along with it, like Blade of Quel'Dalar, Hilt of Quel'Dalar. Annoya Troop is here for some reason, as is Annoying Fan. Sure. I wonder if that is Deck of Villains, which is Warrior. This deck is evil. No, that's what we know about that one.
I mean, I'm guessing lackeys, right? Lackeys and the League of Evil.
It definitely has League of Evil vibes going on in the art there.
I'm sad I don't have the It's an Evil card bumper loaded up, because I would play that right now.
The Tiny Knight of Evil. That's your bumper, even though it's a different one. We also have Shaman questing deck. Your deck has 3 quests, except actually what it has is a 1 mana quest accepted that says begin 3 Shaman quests.
There only are 3, right?
Yeah,
I believe
there's The Murloc one, and then the Battlecry one, and then the spell one.
So I like that they did that workaround, and it's not just like your opening hand has 3 quests.
3 quests in it, yeah.
Garbage. But a single quest that gives you all 3 shaman quests.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Battlecry one is most interesting. I could see Battlecry and Murlocs kind of working together. The Overload one seems challenging.
Yes, the command the elements, corrupt the waters, unite the Murlocs.
I mean, I think the word you're looking for is questionable.
Indeed.
It does sound fun, though.
It does.
I mean, it depends on how much. Be hard to build a deck that actually like leans into all of these. Like, yeah, I can see how you can combine Murloc's Battlecry.
Yeah,
if you go into
Murlocs
Overload, how do you do that?
Yeah.
The rest of it, yeah.
But I don't know any Murlocs, or very many Murlocs, that are Overload cards.
Yeah, it could be. It's just this weird amalgamation where none of it works. Presumably there's enough Overload cards to finish the quest, theoretically.
Yeah.
It sounds like a mistake to me, but you know.
Might be. Well, no, it's not a Battlecry, so
yeah,
I doubt it.
It is a Murloc, though. All right, and finally we have the Warlock one, which is Shrunken Deck. This deck has only 20 cards.
Which might be amazing, depending on what they put in there.
Yeah, I mean, 20. If we ever had, this is why we don't have a reverse Renathal 20 health, 20 cards. That would not go well. But it could be very good, or it could be extremely mediocre. We have no idea. We don't know what it is. So you'll just have to play this card and find out.
So I have some real-time feedback. There are actually 2 Murlocs that have Overload 1.
Okay.
One of them is Siltfin Spirit Walker, which is a 4-mana 2/5. Whenever another friendly Murloc dies, draw a card. That is from Goblins versus Gnomes.
Yep.
And then the other one is Sludge Slurper, which is 1 mana 2/1. Battlecry, add a lackey to your hand, Overload 1.
That's gotta be in there.
It
That's the
has to
only
be.
one. That might be the only card that is good for all the quests, right?
So, Spirit Walker is pretty good if you're playing a bunch of Murlocs.
Sure, but it barely saw play ever.
But if you care about Murlocs and you care about Overload,
sure,
you got peanut butter in my chocolate, and you're off to the races.
I think that 2/1 might actually be the only card that progresses all 3 of the quests in one card, right? It's a Battlecry, it's an Overload, and it's a Murloc.
In before we have a whole cycle of Murlocs with Overload in the new expansion.
Please no.
That's true. We haven't seen everything that might be in here yet. So, all right, well, that wraps up. I do think, Splendiferous Whizbang, there's no way that this is the competitive thing to play, but it's a fun to have. It seems like there's a lot of variety of these decks, and it's something that if you just want to goof off or you have a limited collection, you want to be able to play with lots of wacky stuff. That's kind of always what these cards have been for, and it definitely fits the theme of the expansion, I think, to have this.
And I think they'll be decent, and certainly decent enough that for a lot of people, they love these cards because it gives them a really clear value, of I can craft this one legendary even if I don't open it, and I get to play with a bunch of interesting, wacky stuff.
Yep. I mean, this is I don't normally text card reveals to Maureen because she finds out when the set releases. But this one I did, and she was really excited about it because we don't open our packs until the evening of my stream, right? So there's a period of time from when she gets home from work until I'm done with work and we start streaming that she wants to play because it's the new patch, but she doesn't have any new cards, so she would load up Whizbang, right? But then lately she's had to do Whizbang in the Wild, which is not at all the same. And so this is a new Whizbang that she'll be able to do that and then just have something to do on expansion day, launches, or sometimes she just does that. Whatever. She's not always hyper focused on her rank like I am because she's more of a sane, normal person. So so she'll play that, and she was really excited about that. And for like somebody who is not, doesn't want to build a deck, doesn't know where to find the decks, just like, okay, fine, I don't care, I'll just play this. Okay, one card, here we go, deck in a box, let's go.
Completely the opposite. We have things in this expansion for really wanting to customize, build your deck, and we have things for, I don't like to play the Tavern Brawls where I have to build a deck. Give me a deck. And I'll be different every time. More or less.
Well, I think that will about do it. We are well past the 2-hour mark, which is expected, but I'm glad we didn't quite hit the 2.5, although I'm sure we'll get there in Concede. We have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at concede.com, where you can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/concede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.concede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com, and write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede, as well as like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinconcede. If you would like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Kresh, Beef Squatch, David P., Walu, Jeremy T., Bottlecaps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, Forgiven One, Grizzly Bear, and The Grand Arcanum. Coin Concedes.
First, Coin Concede to Wickagood for the show notes, which were pretty much entirely him this week, and putting together a ton of stuff for the actual stream, all of these images, big outline of what we're going to talk about, and the new bumpers for this week. Incredible. Thank you for all of that. I know it's a lot of work.
Yes. It's a labor of love.
And we can see that. We can see that in the quality of what comes out, that this is something that, and that we really appreciate having that
thank you.
Support. And also a Coin Concede to Ridiculous Hat and Schwal for taking care of the listener series, and which is underway now. And I am sitting this one out because I just have too much stuff going on right now. And it always felt, as a host, I definitely did have actually the disadvantage of everyone knew from my life on ladders exactly what I was going to bring. But I'm really excited to see how that goes for everyone. And we have a pretty big crew this time. So thank you, everyone who signed up for that. It's really fun.
Well, I'm going to Coin Concede to Visara, who, if you don't know her, she is the community manager for EMEA. And she had gotten wrapped up in the Blizzard layoffs a couple of weeks ago, and then just posted yesterday that she is apparently no longer laid off and is going to be staying on with the Hearthstone team. And that is, she's great. I know that a lot of the European influencers, we don't work with her directly, but we have contact with her in like the creator Discord and stuff like that. And a lot of the European influencers are big fans of hers. And it's great to see that Blizzard reconsidered that she's going to be able to stay on and continue to work in that regard and do good work, and that, they don't have to try to find another person to do that work or try to just make Hat do all of it, which also, poor Hat needs a break every so often. So, but I'm really happy for her that she's getting to stay on. I mean, it's clear that she loves the game and she loves the community, and it's, I don't know if we call this a happy ending per se, but it's, avoiding a bad ending, which is, just as good. So I'm glad that she's going to be staying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will Coin Concede to, I suppose, Minty Fresh. I'm sorry, I will never pronounce Califero as whatever that guide was. Just not going to do it. But Coin Concede to you as sort of an apology. and really, whoever, I mean, I'm sure they all had a hand in Ziliax, but Coin Concede to whoever came up with the idea, because that's probably going to be my favorite card all year.
That's definitely the kind of thing that seems like it takes a village, but yeah. But somebody had to have the idea to start with, so yeah. Well, until next week, keep calm and have a splendiferous day. And if you see us on ladder, Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
Hey, not 2.5 hours. Let's go.
All life must end. I yield for now. I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.